Imagine this. You're sitting alone in a quiet cafe, the low hum of conversation blending with the hiss of the espresso machine. Rain slides down the window beside you, distorting the world outside into shifting shapes. Your phone is face down on the table, an unconscious act of defiance against the endless scroll. You're not waiting for anyone, but there's a strange electricity in the air, a sense that something or someone is moving toward you in ways you can't see. And then, without warning, a presence enters the room. Not a face you've seen before, not someone who looks like they should matter to you, but in that first instant, you know. You feel it before you think it. No fireworks, no cinematic soundtrack, just a shift in the atmosphere, subtle but undeniable. You feel seen, though they haven't even looked at you. The sensation is unnerving. It's not desire, not exactly. It's something deeper, something you can't name without reducing it. In that split second, you sense a strange familiarity, as though this stranger has already walked through the corridors of your life in dreams you don't remember having. How can you feel such certainty about someone you've never met? We're taught to be suspicious of moments like these. Modern love stories have been scrubbed clean of mystique and rewritten in bullet points. Compatibility tests, dating apps, checklist psychology. The narrative says that connection is built slowly, rationally, with clear evidence and logical steps. You're supposed to get to know them before you feel anything real. But what if the knowing comes first? What if the most important people in your life arrive not as strangers you learn to love, but as mirrors you instantly recognize, even if you can't explain why? Think of the paradox. You've met thousands of people in your life. You've passed countless faces in the street, heard voices, shaken hands, smiled politely, forgotten them moments later. Yet once in a long while, someone steps into your world and something ancient in you stirs, like a key finding the lock it was made for. And here is the strangest part. That feeling is not always warm. Sometimes it feels like the ground shifting under your feet. Sometimes it is fear disguised as awe, as if your soul understands the magnitude of what is about to unfold and is bracing for impact. Why does that happen? Why do some people feel like destiny and others feel like background noise? Imagine another scenario. You're walking down a crowded street. You're distracted, thinking about errands, work, the unremarkable rhythm of your day. Then your eyes meet someone else's for half a second, half a breath, and something inside you stops. There is no logical reason for it, no shared memory, no history. Yet you carry their face in your mind for weeks after, as though some invisible thread has been tied between you. You tell yourself it's nothing, a fluke, you're imagining it. But deep down, you know that the rarest experiences in life often hide behind the curtain of the unexplainable. This is where the paradox sharpens. We live in an age obsessed with certainty. We are told to trust the science, to look at the evidence, to dismiss anything that cannot be measured. And yet, the deepest human experiences, love, grief, transcendence, déjà vu, are beyond the reach of instruments. They belong to the shadowlands of the soul, where logic feels like an intruder. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the people who are meant for us are the ones who pull us furthest away from our comfortable, logical selves. There's a question most people never ask themselves, though it quietly shapes the course of their lives. Do you believe in recognition, not just attraction, not just shared interests? Recognition, as and I have met you before, somewhere beyond this timeline, and my body remembers even if my mind does not. If you've ever felt it, you know it is not the same as liking someone. It's not the spark of novelty or the rush of infatuation. Recognition is heavier, slower, deeper. It carries the weight of inevitability. You can fight it, of course. You can try to explain it away as hormones, coincidence, projection. You can turn your back on it, but the truth is, you will still carry the echo of that encounter long after you've walked away. And that's what makes it both beautiful and terrifying. Consider what Carl Jung once wrote. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When someone is meant for you, not in the superficial sense, but in the profound, life-altering sense, they are not here to leave you as you are. They arrive as an uninvited catalyst, and whether you see it as fate, synchronicity, or just the strange mathematics of human connection, the effect is undeniable. something in you begins to rearrange itself. And this rearrangement is rarely convenient. It disrupts routines, challenges your identity, forces you to confront truths you've been hiding from. This is why the presence of a meant person in your life can feel as destabilizing as it does intoxicating. So, the great question emerges. If we cannot explain these moments through logic alone, and if they carry both beauty and disruption, how are we meant to approach them? Do we lean into the recognition, even if it threatens to dismantle the life we've built? Or do we treat it as a dangerous illusion, protecting ourselves from what could be nothing more than the mind's tricks? The risk is enormous. You could open yourself to transformation or to ruin. You could step into the most meaningful relationship of your life, or the most painful, and in the moment you feel that pull, you have no way of knowing which it will be. That uncertainty is the price of depth. And yet, if you've felt it even once, you know it's not something you can seek out at will. It doesn't happen on command. It doesn't obey your timetable. It doesn't care about your plans. The people who are meant for you, whatever that truly means, arrive like storms, suddenly, unpredictably, and with a force you can't negotiate with. So maybe the question is not whether to trust the feeling. Maybe the real question is, what part of you is doing the recognizing? Is it the heart, the soul, the subconscious, some ancient intelligence in the depths of your being? Or is it something far stranger, something that rewrites the boundaries of what you thought reality was? To answer that, we must first understand the hidden forces shaping these encounters and why they feel so rare in a world overflowing with people. And that's where we begin to uncover the truth. You've felt it, that unmistakable pull towards someone who seems to exist outside the ordinary laws of meeting and knowing. But here's the unsettling truth. Moments like this are far rarer than they should be. Not because the universe is stingy with them, but because most people never even notice when they happen. Why? Because the modern mind has been trained to distrust its own instincts. From birth, you've been taught to filter your experiences through inherited frameworks. School conditions you to value what can be measured. Society rewards those who can present their desires in rational, evidence-based terms. We become suspicious of intuition, seeing it as naive, impulsive, unreliable. But this skepticism comes at a cost. If you've ever looked into someone's eyes and felt an ancient familiarity, your logical mind will instantly try to dismantle it. You're imagining this. It's just attraction. You're projecting your needs onto them. And yet, long before psychology and science attempted to map human behavior, entire cultures believed that certain souls were destined to meet. In myth, these meetings were never casual. They were the hinge points on which destinies turned. Carl Jung had a word for this: synchronicity, the occurrence of events that are meaningfully related, though they appear to have no causal connection. Meeting someone who feels meant for you can be a living example of this. Not in the trivial everything happens for a reason sense, but in the unsettling recognition that something beneath the surface of your life seems to be arranging itself without your consent. Jung believed that these meetings arise from the unconscious, not just your personal unconscious, but what he called the collective unconscious, a shared psychic blueprint all humans inherit. Within it are archetypes, patterns of relationship, attraction, and transformation that surface when the conditions are right. When you meet someone and instantly feel they fit in your life, you may not be recognizing them as much as you're recognizing the role they are meant to play in your personal myth. Nietzsche, in his own fierce way, warned us about this. He spoke of the eternal recurrence, the idea that your life in all its moments might repeat infinitely. If that's true, then those you are meant to meet aren't just passing through your timeline once. They've been here before and will return again and again. This thought is both beautiful and terrifying. It means the feeling of recognition might not be an illusion at all, but a memory from other cycles of existence. But here's the hidden problem. Modern society is designed to keep you distracted enough to miss these moments. The endless notifications, the curated self-images, the transactional approach to relationships, where people are evaluated like products. We don't look at each other long enough to let recognition set in. The deeper currents of the psyche have been buried under noise. Even when someone truly significant crosses your path, you might only register them as interesting and move on, because the part of you that knows how to see them has gone dormant. Arthur Schopenhauer, often accused of pessimism but truly just unwilling to lie, believed that love, attraction, and destiny are nothing more than the will to life using individuals for its own purposes. In his view, the recognition you feel towards certain people isn't mystical, it's biological inevitability, the species ensuring its continuation. Cold, perhaps, but think about it. What if the pull you feel is a primal force far older than romance? What if your entire nervous system lights up at the presence of certain people because, on some level, survival depends on it? It would explain why recognition feels less like a gentle choice and more like being claimed. But biology alone doesn't explain the depth. If it were just DNA compatibility, the sensation would fade quickly, like any short-lived attraction. Yet with meant people, the bond seems to deepen even in silence, even without physical closeness. This is where Viktor Frankl's perspective becomes essential. Frankl survived the concentration camps not by denying reality's horrors, but by finding meaning in them. He argued that the human drive for meaning is stronger than the drive for pleasure or power. When someone is meant for you, they don't just stir your biology, they awaken your search for meaning. Their presence throws your existence into sharper relief, making you confront questions you might have avoided. Who am I when I am truly seen? What am I willing to risk for what feels real? Have I been sleepwalking through my own life until now? This is the root of the paradox. We crave these rare connections, yet we fear them because they demand we step outside the scripts we've been given. They expose the fact that much of what we call love in modern society is really just compatibility theater, safe, predictable, and contained. The person you are meant to meet will rarely fit neatly into your plan. They arrive like a rupture. This is why, philosophically, Jean-Paul Sartre might argue that they confront you with radical freedom, the terrifying awareness that your life is not fixed and that you can choose differently at any moment. And with that freedom comes responsibility. Meeting someone who shakes you at the soul level forces you to decide, will you continue living by default or will you choose to be fully alive? And yet, many never make the leap. They stay in the safety of their routines, filing away the encounter as a curious anomaly. Why? Because recognizing someone in this way is not just about them, it's about the parts of yourself you've kept locked away. Jung called this the shadow, the aspects of yourself you reject or repress. Often the people who are meant for you are the ones who embody your shadow in some way. They carry the qualities you've been taught to suppress: boldness, vulnerability, ambition, chaos. Their presence stirs both desire and fear, because accepting them means accepting those hidden parts of yourself. And for many, it's easier to reject the person than to face the mirror they hold up. This is the hidden psychological and philosophical root. You are drawn to them because they represent something your soul is ready to reclaim. You are afraid of them because reclaiming it would require dismantling the life you've built on compromise. And so, most people run. Not because the connection isn't real, but because it is. And reality, when it's this raw, doesn't fit into the neat boxes our culture provides. But here is the unspoken consequence. Every time you turn away from such a person, you are not just losing them, you are delaying a part of your own becoming. You cannot outsource this recognition to science, logic, or advice columns. The signal is felt in the marrow. It defies proof because it is not a theory to be proven, it is a truth to be lived, and yet ignoring it carries a price far beyond the loss of another human being. The cost is a quieter, smaller life, a life where the self you were meant to be remains unborn. Still, before we can even think about embracing such encounters, we must face the gravity of what happens if we don't. The consequences are not just personal, they ripple outward, shaping the way we love, the way we connect, the way we live in society, and those consequences are far more dangerous than most dare to admit. You might think that ignoring one rare moment of recognition, a single instant in the span of a lifetime, would be inconsequential, but life does not work in straight lines, it works in patterns. When you miss one of these moments, you are not just avoiding a person. You are teaching yourself to mistrust your deepest instincts. You are reinforcing the belief that what is most alive in you must be silenced. And here's the tragedy. The cost of doing that is not always immediate. It's slow, silent, and devastating. The first consequence: emotional numbness. Every time you override the pull towards someone who shakes you to your core, you dull the capacity to feel that depth again. Not because the potential won't arise, but because you will have trained yourself to dismiss it before it takes root. Psychologists call this learned helplessness, a condition where you stop acting on opportunities because past experiences have taught you that action leads nowhere. But here, the helplessness isn't a bear. Out the external world, it's about the internal one. You stop reaching for meaning because you've convinced yourself it's a mirage. And what is life when it is stripped of those rare, vivid moments of recognition? Comfortable, perhaps. Safe, but hollow. The second consequence, the substitution trap. When you turn away from the one who feels meant for you, the void they leave does not disappear. Instead, it demands to be filled, and in that hunger you may settle for substitutes, relationships that are easier, safer, more convenient. On the surface, these substitutes work. They check the boxes, they meet social expectations, they offer companionship without risk, but underneath, they lack the resonance that only recognition brings. This is how people end up in marriages that feel more like contracts than connections. This is how friendships remain pleasant but never transformative. This is how decades pass in the quiet ache of knowing something essential has been missed. The third consequence, war with the self. Jung warned that what we deny in ourselves will eventually turn against us. If the person who is meant for you embodies parts of your shadow, rejecting them means rejecting those parts in you. But the shadow does not vanish, it festers. Over time, this can manifest as anxiety, depression, or an unshakable sense of dissatisfaction. You may not consciously link these feelings to the moment you turned away, but the psyche remembers, and it will keep sending reminders in the form of restlessness, dreams, and the haunting suspicion that your life is somehow off course. The societal consequence, a culture of shallow bonds, zoom out from the individual to the collective, and the impact becomes even more disturbing. We live in a time where true recognition is almost extinct, not because the capacity is gone, but because society rewards avoiding it. Superficial connections are more marketable, they keep dating apps profitable, social media buzzing, and consumer culture thriving. Deep connection. Ends, on the other hand, are unpredictable. They make people harder to manipulate. They disrupt the cycles of consumption by offering fulfillment that money can't buy. If too many people began acting on those rare, soul-deep recognitions, entire industries would crumble. And so, the culture subtly teaches us to distrust them, to laugh them off, to label them irrational. The result? A society full of people surrounded by others, yet starving for connection. The cognitive trap, rationalizing the loss. Here's where the mind becomes its own warden. When you've ignored or lost someone who was meant for you, your psyche scrambles to protect itself from the pain. It tells you stories. It wouldn't have worked out anyway. I was overthinking it. They weren't that special. These narratives are seductive because they offer closure without confrontation. But the danger is that they rewrite your personal mythology. They teach you to mistrust your own moments of clarity, and the more you repeat them, the further you drift from the part of yourself that is capable of recognizing truth when it arrives. The existential toll, losing the thread. Nietzsche spoke of life as a rope stretched between the animal and the overman, a rope over an abyss. To walk it, you must be awake, alert, unafraid of the heights and the depths. When you meet someone meant for you, they are often part of that rope. They may be a guide, a mirror, a challenge, or a doorway. But if you ignore them, you risk losing your footing. The rope becomes harder to see. You may keep walking, but with less certainty, less direction. Eventually, you may stop walking altogether and simply stand still, surviving rather than living. The paradox of pain. Ironically, even when these connections lead to heartbreak, the pain often leaves you more alive than the comfort of never having tried. Sartre might say that this is because freedom and meaning are born in the moments when you choose despite the risk. But when you never choose, when you avoid, the absence of pain does not mean the presence of joy. It means the absence of depth. Neurological echoes. From a neuroscientific perspective, these rare encounters trigger complex cascades of activity in the brain. Oxytocin, dopamine, and norepinephrine flood your system, heightening focus and memory. This is why you can recall minute details about the first meeting years later, the light in the room, the tone of their voice, the way the air seemed to change. When you ignore or abandon such a connection, the neural pathways remain. The brain remembers, and sometimes, years later, a song, a scent, or a glance from a stranger will reopen the circuit, flooding you with feelings you thought you had buried. This is why the consequences of ignoring someone meant for you can feel inescapable. They are literally wired into your nervous system. The cultural amnesia. We have forgotten what our ancestors knew, that certain meetings are sacred. In ancient traditions, such moments were marked with ritual. Two people who recognized each other in this way were seen as playing a role in the unfolding story of the tribe, the family, or the cosmos. Today, we have no such rituals. We have algorithms and swipes. We have emojis and status updates. And in trading the sacred for the efficient, we have stripped away the frameworks that would help us understand and honor these encounters. The closing grip. The greatest unseen consequence is this. The more often you dismiss or miss these moments, the smaller the chances become that you will recognize them again, not because fate has abandoned you, but because recognition requires a certain openness, a softness in the mind and heart. And every time you choose safety over depth, that softness hardens. Until one day, you might pass someone in the street who could have changed everything, and you will feel nothing, not because the connection isn't there, but because the part of you that could feel it has gone silent. This is why the stakes are so high. It's not just about love or romance or fate. It's about the preservation of the part of you that can still be moved by something larger than yourself. And so the question becomes, if this is the price of ignoring such connections, how do you begin to protect them? How do you rebel against a culture, a psyche, and a history that all conspire to make you miss them? To answer that, we must step into the territory of rebellion, where you learn to see with new eyes and to act on what you see without apology. Rebellion doesn't always look like fire and noise. Sometimes it begins in silence, an inner refusal to keep living by the rules that made you blind in the first place. To break free from the conditioning that dulls recognition, you must first admit something radical. The deepest truths of your life will not arrive with evidence, consensus, or permission. They will come as whispers, as jolts, as moments that make no sense until much later, if ever. The rebellion is to trust them anyway. Step 1. Unlearning distrust of your own signals. From childhood, you've been taught to seek external validation before believing anything is real. A grade, a like, a confirmation from someone else's mouth. Recognition defies this system because it offers no proof, only the undeniable sensation that something in you has been touched. To reclaim your ability to act on this, you must practice noticing without rushing to justify. This means allowing yourself to register the spark when it happens, without immediately smothering it with logic. You do not have to do anything in that moment. The rebellion begins simply by admitting to yourself, "This is real, I felt it." Step 2. Slowing down the encounter. Modern life teaches speed. We swipe, scroll, skim, respond. But recognition is easily drowned in haste. If you want to honor it, you must slow down, not just physically, but perceptually. When you meet someone who stirs you, resist the impulse to categorize them instantly. Don't shove them into the boxes of friend, potential partner, or irrelevant stranger. Let them remain undefined. The undefined space is where transformation happens. This is the opposite of what the culture encourages. We are told to know what we want and make quick decisions. But with the people who matter most, the truth is, you don't yet know what they are to you. And that's the point. Step 3. Facing the shadow without flinching. If someone feels meant for you, chances are they carry traits that mirror your hidden self. This is the moment when most people retreat, because to accept them means to confront parts of yourself you've avoided. The rebellion here is to turn toward the discomfort instead of away from it. Ask, what is it about them that stirs me? What do they embody that I've been taught to suppress? Carl Jung believed that the integration of the shadow is essential to individuation, to becoming whole. And often, the meant person is not here to give you what you think you want, but to return to you what you have lost in yourself. Step 4. Rewriting your relationship with risk. Here's the unavoidable truth. Acting on recognition is a gamble. You could end up heartbroken. You could disrupt your life. You could find yourself in the middle of chaos. But rebellion demands you accept that risk as the price of depth. Nietzsche famously said, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." The chaos of recognition, the uncertainty, the vulnerability, is not a flaw in the process. It is the crucible in which transformation occurs. If you try to have the connection without the risk, you will get neither. Step 5. Defying the cultural scripts. You live in a society that has standardized connection into patterns that are safe, profitable, and easily understood. Defying those patterns means you will often feel like you're moving against the current. You may hear advice like, don't get too invested too quickly, focus on compatibility, play it cool. But the people who are meant for you will not fit neatly into compatibility charts. They are not here to leave your identity intact. They are here to evolve it. The rebellion is to stop making decisions based solely on what is socially approved and instead ask, does this feel alive? Does this feel true? Step 6. Creating space for the unexplainable. Recognition thrives in the spaces we rarely allow ourselves anymore. Silence, stillness, slowness. If your life is crammed with noise and distraction, there's no room for it to bloom. You don't need to seek these encounters. They are not controllable, but you can prepare yourself for them by cultivating conditions in which they can register. This means moments of reflection without a device in your hand, walking without headphones, sitting with your thoughts until the initial restlessness fades and a deeper awareness surfaces. When you live at this level of attentiveness, recognition doesn't have to scream to get your attention, it only has to whisper. Step 7. Acting before fear talks you out of it. There's a narrow window after you feel that initial pull when your courage is still stronger than your fear. Act in that window. Say something. Make the connection, however small. It doesn't have to be dramatic. A conversation, a shared coffee, a gesture that acknowledges the spark without demanding a destination. Fear thrives in hesitation. The longer you wait, the more reasons your mind will invent to stay silent. Rebellion is acting while the soul is still louder than the ego. Step 8. Allowing the connection to change you. Once the connection is made, the real rebellion is not in possessing the person, but in letting the encounter alter you. Too often, we approach relationships as transactions, seeking what we can get while trying to remain fundamentally unchanged. But the meant person will not allow this. They are here to dismantle the smaller self you've been living inside. To resist that is to refuse the very gift they bring. Step 9. Accepting that it might not last. This is perhaps the hardest rebellion of all. To embrace the connection fully without clinging to permanence. Some meant people will stay for a lifetime, others will be a single chapter. Sartre would remind us that freedom includes the freedom to leave, and that meaning is not dependent on duration. The fact that a connection ends does not mean it wasn't real. It means it was real enough to complete its purpose. The courage to be seen. Ultimately, breaking free from the conditioning that blinds you to recognition is about developing the courage to be seen without armor. Because here's the secret. When someone is truly meant for you, they will not just see the polished self you present to the world. They will see all of you. And that can be terrifying. But it is also the only way to be truly known. The final act of rebellion. The ultimate act of rebellion is to live as if these moments matter, because they do. To give them weight in your story. To let them alter your course, even if the change terrifies you. You will be told you're foolish. You will be told you're imagining it. You will be told to be realistic. But the world does not need more realism. It needs more people who are willing to let recognition break them open, so something new can be born. And yet, even with all this, there is one final, most dangerous illusion left to dismantle. The belief that recognition is about finding someone else. The deepest truth of all will not be about them at all. It will be about you. That truth waits in the final section, and when you see it, everything you felt, every moment of recognition you've ever experienced, will make sense in a way it never has before. Imagine this. Years from now, you're sitting somewhere quiet, perhaps on a park bench, perhaps in your kitchen at 2 a.m., and your mind drifts to someone you once knew. Not because they hurt you, not because you're longing for them, but because they remain etched into you in a way you can't erase. You think about the strange familiarity you felt the first time you met, the way their presence rearranged something in you, even if you didn't fully understand it. And then you see it, not as nostalgia, not as regret, but as revelation. It was never really about them. This is the paradox you've been circling all along. The phrase "meant for you" feels like it's pointing to another person, as though fate is a matchmaking service, carefully placing individuals into each other's lives like puzzle pieces. But the truth, the deepest, most unsettling truth, is that the one who is meant for you is not a person at all. It is a version of yourself. And the people who stir you so profoundly, they are simply the messengers. They arrive to awaken the self you have forgotten, ignored, or buried. They do not give you what you lack. They remind you of what has always been there. Think about it. Every person who has ever felt like destiny didn't just exist in your life. They provoked something dormant. They revealed capacities you didn't know you had: courage, vulnerability, desire, creativity, truth-telling. You didn't find those qualities in them. You found them in yourself, because of them. This is why the encounter feels both magnetic and destabilizing. You're not just meeting them, you're meeting yourself in their reflection. Carl Jung hinted at this when he wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." The meant person is the catalyst for that privilege. They're not the destination, they're the spark that forces you toward it. And that's the danger of misunderstanding the nature of recognition. If you mistake the messenger for the message, you may cling to them, thinking they are the gift, when in truth, they are the door. Walk through and you find yourself. Stay fixated on the door and you may miss the room it was leading you into. This doesn't mean the relationship doesn't matter. It matters enormously, but it matters because of what it awakens, not because of its permanence. Even if they leave, or if you leave, the self they awakened in you is yours to keep. This is why some people you knew for only a short time leave a deeper imprint than those who stayed for years. The length of the connection is irrelevant to its power. What matters is the depth of transformation it triggers. Here lies the final truth. The universe doesn't send people to complete you. It sends people to confront you with your own potential, your own unclaimed strength, your own unlived life. And sometimes the confrontation is so profound that it feels like recognition, because in a way it is. You are recognizing yourself. The implications of this truth are staggering. It means you can stop searching desperately for the one, as though they are hiding somewhere in the crowd. It means you can meet people deeply without the anxiety of possession, because you understand the gift they carry is already yours in seed form. It means you can release connections with gratitude instead of bitterness, knowing the real treasure is what they left inside you, not the fact of their presence beside you. This also explains why some people who feel meant for you arrive at the wrong time. It's not about the wrongness, it's about readiness. Their role is not necessarily to build a shared life with you, but to activate the parts of you that will make your life more fully your own. Even if the timing means you cannot walk, the path together, the awakening they bring, will alter the way you walk it alone. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of becoming who you are as the highest task, but becoming who you are is not a solitary act. It is shaped, sharpened, and sometimes shocked into motion by the presence of others. Some of them will feel accidental. A rare few will feel inevitable. Those rare few, they are the mirrors in which you catch a glimpse of the self you were always meant to live as. There's a freedom in this realization that can feel almost disorienting at first, because once you see it, the desperation to hold on to certain people begins to dissolve. You still love, still care, still cherish, but you understand that their physical presence is not the only way to keep them. You can carry them in your mannerisms, in the courage they awakened, in the truths they made you speak, in the shadows they helped you face. They remain alive in you because you remain alive in you. And perhaps the most liberating part of all, when you realize this, you become more open to the next encounter. You are no longer paralyzed by fear of loss, because you understand that even loss delivers something indestructible. This is the alchemy of recognition. It turns meeting another into meeting yourself. So what does it feel like when someone is meant for you? It feels like coming home, but also like being set on fire. It feels like clarity and chaos woven together in the same moment. It feels like being seen by them, and for the first time, by yourself. It is not always easy. It is not always gentle. but it is always holy in the sense that it leaves you more awake than it found you. Imagine your life as a long corridor filled with locked doors. Most people you meet simply walk past with you, but the ones who are meant for you? They carry keys. They open doors you didn't know existed, revealing rooms you didn't know were yours. You may walk through those rooms together for a while, or they may hand you the key and vanish. But either way, the room is now yours to live in, explore, and fill with the life you choose. This is the final, most powerful realization. They are not the destination. They are the threshold. And every threshold crossed brings you closer to the person you came here to become. So the next time you feel that rare, unshakable recognition, when your body knows before your mind can explain, pause, not to cling, not to calculate, but to listen. Because what you are really hearing is your own soul calling you by name. And that call, once heard, can never be unheard.